So let's take a look at some permitting side of things. We'll go back to the portal and apply for a permit just so we can refresh our memory on how that looks. And then we'll come into CitizenServe and take a look at how it comes in. We'll look at some basic fees, and then we can talk about some reports. All right, so I'm back on the portal. So let's say I was a new contractor and I wanted to apply for a permit. And I was new to the system. I hit register now. One of the things that we do when we migrate your data, so typically your contractors are already going to be in the database because we're going to import your data and they're already in your data. We don't want them to register again. So they're going to have an account already set up. We want them to log in with the account that's already in the system so they can see all their existing permits. If they go and register as a new account, they're not going to see their existing information. So typically, you'll send out a batch email, or if you don't have good emails for everyone, you can send out a paper letter that says, hey, here's our new portal. This is your temporary username. Go online, recover your password through your email so that they can kind of connect to their existing account. But if they are a brand new contractor, they would go into register now. And again, you can configure this list. I'm just going to say a contractor. And you can control what's required. So we always require an email unless it's anonymous. But in this case, they said they want to require the business name, the mailing address, and a phone number. And you can set additional information up down here. So what Sanford's done is they said, okay, they need to give us at least one state license number with a classification, expiration date, and they need to attach a copy of the license. I'm going to show you Gainesville's, which basically the same information, but they took a different approach to it. So it's kind of interesting to see the differences. Sanford's is pretty simple. They're like, okay, give us your main one, and if you have any other ones, we'll give you 2 more spots to add other licenses. And then they also ask for the workers' comp and the general liability. So it's all the same information when we look at Gainesville, same information, they just kind of structured it different. And you can control all of this. So everything down here, you can add in fields if you need to. So if you want to collect additional information, you can. So I'm going to just go back and log in so that I don't have to fill out that whole form, and also so I get the emails. So I'm going to do 1, 1, 3. All right, so let's go apply for a permit. Again, in the application type, this will be your list of permit types. Let's do a commercial building permit this time, see how that's different from a residential. Let's say we're going to do new construction and, I don't know, new strip mall. So one of the things you can ask is this for a new or an existing project? So if it's a new project, then they're going to give us the address and we're going to create a brand new file. If it's for an existing project, let's say they've already gone through the development process and so there's already a project set up for that, they can say it's an existing file and then they can plug in the permit number. I'm going to make something up and I don't know if it's going to be a valid permit number or not. Let's find the project. Oh, I found a good one. So they can, this will link it to that existing project, so that they all come in together and it's all under the same file, which I'll show you here in a bit. So we've got the type of work. So this is pretty similar to the residential. So let's say we're doing, let's see, let's say it is, I'm trying to find like a retail or something. Let's just say it is stores and customer service. That sounds right. Again, we pick the property owner, the plan review contact person. As the person filling out the form, they are the applicant, they are the contractor. So we can leave that blank. We'll type in a construction value. And let's attach some plans. So this is pretty similar to the, we'll do those 2. Oh, I don't want that one. Let's do that one, this one. Very similar to the residential application. And then they're going to come in. agree to all the terms and conditions, and hit submit. That's going to submit their application. It's going to calculate the fees on the permit, and it's going to let them make a payment. So here, the amount due is only $25, so they're probably just collecting an application fee up front. That's probably all they're collecting. So that's the online submittal process again for a permit. Any questions on that?
If they have multiple permits that they're requesting, let's say if it's a company that's putting in for a couple of electrical permits, would they get to pay all of them at one time?
They can. It's going to take them to this payment page, but they can just move forward if you don't want them to pay at this point, and then they can go under their account and make a payment here, and this lets them pay for multiple things at once. So if they're, go in and they want to use their credit card to pay for all their permits at once, they can go under my account to do that.
I noticed on your credit card page, it looks like it's part of the city of Stanford, excuse me. Grew up in New York, so Stanford came to mind. It looked like you were still on the web page for Stanford.
Yes.
You have of handling that differently, where you could route out to a credit card payment agency that we might be dealing with?
Yeah, let me get back to that page just so we can take a look at it. Live Oak.
And that's primarily, that's going to depend a lot too on who your payment processor is, if they use your forms or how that works. So
exactly. Okay, so I got all the minimum required fields in there. Let's just submit it again so I can get to the payment page. So most of the payment processors, the way that they work is we show this page. And so it looks seamless to the applicant. We show this page, they fill out the form. When they click submit, we transmit that information to the payment processor. They process the payment and send us back an authorization code. That's usually the cleanest way. If the payment processor wants to go to their page, then what happens is once this happens, instead of it coming here, it takes them to the payment processor page, and they make the payment, and they submit it, and then it comes back to CitizenServe. So it can go either way, and like Ray mentioned, it's typically based on how that payment processor works. What we have found is it's best, we've had the most luck, when it stays on the Stanford page, because sometimes when it opens up another page and it has different marketing and different branding and people get confused, they don't know what it is. So it's a little more cumbersome. Sometimes we used to see that with PayPal a lot. When in the early days of PayPal, it went to the PayPal page and people were like, what? But it can go either way depending on your payment processor.
Yeah, just curious.
We have another question. On the timing of the payment, say some of the applications, the middle management applications, the fees depend on certain criteria. They're not straightforward a flat fee. Is there a way that you can have staff review, make sure that the applicant has identified all the variables correctly so that they have the correct fee calculation before the applicant pays the fee to avoid us collecting the wrong fee amount?
Right. Definitely. And the way that most cities do it is they will collect the plan review fee up front, because they'll collect the plan review fee, and then during that plan review process, that's when they validate the fees and make sure they pick the right construction type and all the other fees are correct. And then once the permit's approved, then they say, okay, here's your final balance due. And then they go back and pay it online again. You could do it. You could say, we don't want to collect anything up front. I think what Stanford's doing is they're just collecting an application fee, because it's like a flat $25 each time. And then they're going to review the fees and tell the applicant, here's the amount due that you need to pay. We try to, when we design it, we try to put as few steps as possible in that process, because if you, let's say you collect the $25 And then you're like, okay, your plan check fees are $400, go pay that. And then we wait for them to pay it, and then we start the plan review. We want to have as few steps as possible. So usually what we'll do is we'll say, let's get some money up front, whether you just want an application fee or if you want to try to pay for the plan check fees at this time. That's the most common. And then once we finish our approval, it's one more time that we say, hey, it's approved, here's your final amount, they pay, and then we issue the permit. Gainesville is going to collect all the money up front, which is pretty uncommon because just like you said, those fees change. Like they lowball the cost, and so it's rare that the fees are 100% up front, right, just because the contractor doesn't always put in everything he needs. But you could go either way.
One more question, what's the payment? Oh, it's a couple screens back. Okay, sorry. When the applicant is indicating whether it's an existing project or a new project, is there a search criteria to find the existing permit number if they're not aware of it?
Yes. So if I go, I want to apply for a permit, and it's commercial, and it's new, and I type some junk in there, and I say, it's an existing project. So it asks for the permit number or file number, and so hopefully they have it, but they usually don't. Then they say, I don't know the permit or file number. So then they can put in a street number and a street name and hit find project, and then the system will go, okay, here's some possibles. And this looks funny because I'm so zoomed in on my computer screen, but then they can say, oh, that's the right one. It's 307 Live Oak, and I want to add it to that electrical addition repair. So they have a way to search. They can also go under their My Account. So if I'm a contractor and I go under My Account and I look at my requests, I can search for my permits in here as well. So it's going to list all of my open ones, but I can search and pull different information in. So I can look it up on my own if I want to too. So I say, let me go see all of my issued permits. I only have one. Normally they have lots. And in here they can search, they can type in a permit number, they can type in a street name or an address to find the match.
Okay, we're good.
All right, so let's go back into Citizen Serve and take a look at some of these applications and what it's done in fees. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go into Steve. So when those applications come in, you have lots of different options. You can have it trigger the review route right from that. So whoever it's supposed to go to, it just triggers it and sends it to everybody. You can have it go to a specific person who does some kind of application intake, and then that person routes it out. What Sanford has done is they have it go into an unassigned activity queue because they have a staff of 4 or 5 different permit clerks that they just process all the work as it comes in. So they didn't want it to go to one person because it's not always the same person. So they'll come in and monitor this unassigned activity queue. So let's look at the 3 new. It's probably one of those. So I'm going to pull up this new list. There's the 3 that we've added today. If I look at the whole overdue list, so let's look at all of them. Multiple things can come into your unassigned activity queue. So it can be inspection requests. So if you want to assign inspections, those can go into the unassigned queue. Reviews can go in there. Messages on the portal. So there's lots of different things you can put in the unassigned queue. And as we're doing your setup, we kind of talk through all the different types of things and what makes sense, what should go in there, what should not go in there. And it's also by department. So if I'm in fire, I don't have to see buildings list and so on and so forth. I just see my own. But you can filter for this. So Sanford, they put a lot in the unassigned queue because they have a lot of pooling of work, so they put it all in there and everybody works from the list. So you can filter. So if you say, you know what, I just want to look for the application intakes right now, I can just pull them up and take a look at those. I can look at them on a map. So if it's inspections that I'm assigning, it's helpful to look at a map to decide who I want to give those to. So let me find some of those application intakes that we did earlier. Let's see. I'm looking for, you know what, I'm just going to go get the 3 because I know that they're there. All right, so I'm going to just put these on my unassigned queue. So by checking the box, it assigns them to me. If I said, oh, you know what, I want this to go to Annette, I can just pick Annette's name and it'll go to her. I want all 3 of them. So I'll hit save. That takes them out of the unassigned queue and puts them on my list. So they're now on my tasks. So let's go do one of them. So they're probably at the bottom. Let's pull this one up and take a look at our fees. So if I click here, it takes me to my task. If I click here on the permit number, it goes to the permit. So typically, you want to go to the task, and then if you want to see the permit, you click the ... It kind of lets you balance between the two, and we'll focus a lot on this afternoon when we go through the plan review process. So if we look at our permit application, it's just got a total amount of $69. Let's see how it came up with that. So if we come down on the construction value, it's based on this $25,000 fee. That's how it came up with the fees. So we've got an application fee of $25. We've got the base permit fee is $40, and then they're adding a DBPR and DCA state surcharge, and this didn't live up to the minimum of, I think, $2 for each, so it added the minimum fee to this. If I said, you know what, I'm going to up this valuation to $250,000, wrong spot, click the calculator, that'll redo our fees. And then you can also, these are all custom fields, so we can control this. So sometimes they don't want to add an application fee, so they can say, no, I don't want to add the application fee, hit the calculator, and it'll take that $25 off. They can say, oh, we want to add impact fees. Usually I see impact fees automatically added, but in Sanford, they wanted to control it. So they can come in and say, all right, yep, let's add the residential single family impact fees, and hit the calculator, and it'll add those impact fees. So we try to build the fee structures so that you don't have to add fees. You answer questions and fill out forms, and the fees get calculated based on what you've entered. You can manually add fees if you want to as well. So if I just need to add a manual fee, I can click the add fees icon. And that just shows me all the different things. So like their sewer and water impact fees, that was just something that they didn't want to calculate. They wanted someone to come in and say it's going to be $523. And that's going to be $236. So county impact fees, same thing. They couldn't calculate those exactly. So they just wanted to type in the number. So you can do that as well. And when we total the fees, the system will group the plan check fees, typically because those get paid first, and those are the ones that we want to collect up front. So we've got plan check fees are their own number, and then all the other permit fees go under other, and then you have a total. And if they had made the payment online, we would see it right here. If I want to add a payment to this, I can just hit the credit card. Let's say they gave us a check, and if I wanted to put a check number in here, I could. I want to add a note, I could. We can say who it's received from. And let's say they paid that plan check fee, which was $750. And if I want to print the receipt, I can just click print receipt, which saves it, and then lets me generate a receipt document. Just a simple receipt. And those payments are allocated to the fees. So when you run, like, let's say a nightly report that shows how much money did we collect and to what GL codes, you can see that the system allocates it automatically, but you can always come in and change it. So if I go into the allocate icon, I'll click that. These screens can be kind of complicated just because of all the different levels of information. So their GL codes are pretty long. Like there's lots of information in there. So these are all the different fees and all the different GL codes for each of those. and we can see that here's the current allocation, it allocated the $750 to that plan review fee because it knows go to plan review first and then start doing permit fees after that. So if I made another payment, let's just say I paid like these two. Let's just put in some random amount so we can look at that. So I'm going to add another payment. And let's just say, again, it was another check. And I'm just going to do, I don't know, let's say $1,485.08. So if I go look at the allocation for that payment, there's our $750 payment. So I'm going to come down here to the 14. It just put it all to the permit fee. So that's the next order that it's set up to go to. And you can configure the order. So if you say, oh, after that it should go to impact fees, then it would have started splitting it over the impact fees. And then you can, if you have the right access, you can manually change the allocation as well. You can also set different levels for payments. So different levels of security. So some people can have no access to payments. That means they can't take a payment, they can't edit a payment, they can't do anything. Some people can just take payments, which means they could add a payment to a permit. Some people can edit the payments. So let's say that I wanted to change this reference number. If I have access to edit the payment, I can come in and change the payment. I can't change the amount, but I could change the date. If I wanted to, I could change different things. So you get to determine who can do what in terms of modifying those payments. If my amount was incorrect, let's say I meant to put 570, I'd have to put in a credit to adjust the amount so you have that tracking that shows you who did what in terms of those payments. All right, any questions on the payment side of things?
Yeah, we have a question.
Okay.
We have a central cashiering person. So does the permit get issued like a ticket number that the applicant can take straight to the cashier and the cashier would know which permit to match it to?
Yeah, so when I'm applying for things, so if I applied online and I wanted to come in and pay, here's one of the system notifications, your permit application has been received. Let me make it bigger. You can put whatever you want in here, but this is put the permit number. So they could take this down. That's the number, kind of the ticket number, the reference number is the application number. So yeah, you could print something out. They could get a standard email notification if they wanted to go into the cashier to pay it.
But then the cashier would have to actually go into that permit to pay it. They wouldn't have a central receipt number. They could just put in a ticket number.
If you have like a central, system that you're using now, cashiering system to plug in your payments in, you could do an integration with that, which is like we've done that with recently Redmond. They have a separate cashiering system. So they log the payments all day long in the cashiering system, and then at the end of the night we get a batch file with those payments, and then we apply them in CitizenServe. So you could do an integration point with your cashiering system if you wanted to.
And there's different ways that we can do that based on your cashiering system. If they have web services, we can do a web service where they would query either by a permit number or a person, all those owed, that can be paid, and then they would just send this back via web service also. So different ways we can do that.
Any more questions? Okay, we're good.
All right. So let's see. Let's take a look at reports. So I'm going to go under reports here. Let's see. Who am I logged in as? Am I Steve? I'm Steve. Good. So reports. There's lots of standard reports that come with the system. That's everything from here down. And they're good. They're generic. They have basic information. Some of them work great for what you need, but typically people have very specific needs when it comes to reports. They want to see, exactly what they need, and they don't want to have to run 3 reports to try to pull it. So we have custom reports that you can create or that we can create for you. And it's all covered under part of your standard support. So if you need 1,000 reports, you can have 1,000 reports. No one's going to ask you for more money. That's just all included. So the reports can be, let's look at this daily deposit report. I don't even know what some of these are. So payment date, let's do, I don't know, let's try like I don't know what the date of my backup is, so I don't know what I'll find in there, but let's try that. So you can run the report, and let's see, what is this one? So this is just a breakdown of the payments, broken down by type and check. So if I had had more payments in here, I'd have more options. This is all configurable. So you can have different fees. You can change the columns. They're all custom reports, so you can put whatever you want in there. You can print your reports. You can export them to Excel. If you print them, they just print out as a normal, let's just take a look at it, make it landscape. So they're just going to print out as a standard report. You can export them to Excel. So if you want to change sorting and do different things with them, you can. Let's see what other reports we have in here. Reports. Let's look at COs issued. So this is just a date range report, and let's run it. So it's just a list of all the COs that were issued and on what date. So a lot of times with reports, when we do your initial setup, you'll have like, these are the reports that we run all the time today. We try to just set up the ones that you know you're going to need, because once you start using the system, you develop all different kinds of reporting needs. So you decide, oh, we need a report on this and we need something on that. And so it's better to kind of wait and let those reporting needs come up to the surface and then create them than to create, 60 reports that no one's ever going to use and that just complicate your report list. But again, you can have as many as you want. You can drill down on the report. So if I said, oh, well, I want to look at this permit, I can click it, and it'll take me right to the permit. Let's see what other reports we have in here. You can have map reports. So let's look at licenses issued report. I don't even know what this is. Let's look at all the licenses. I don't remember when their licensing time frame is, so I don't know how much I'll get, but let's try that. Oh, they issued one license up in South Carolina. Let's drill in closer. So these are all the licenses that were issued. And you can control, these colors. This is how they wanted to see them. They want it broke down by their license subtype. So the red ones are the commercials outside of the city, and the brown ones are in the city, and the blues are the home occupancy. So you can have map reports. You can also have chart reports. Let's go find another report. Let's look at completed activities by users. So these are all the activities completed by users. This is a standard report. So let's look at January to today. So Debbie Blanton is just really working it. She's got most of them. She's a permit clerk. She's doing a lot of those. I think Juan's an inspector, so he's got lots of inspections. Annette's also a permit clerk. I don't know what Joe's position is. But here's a standard report that you can run with a pie chart. And again, you can print these. And you can also create your own reports. So let's say I want to build my own report. I'm going to go to Reports and select New, create a report. And I'll call it Julie Report. And I want to do a list. And I want to report on permits. And I want permit number, I want permit type, subtype, work description, issue date, expiration date, and let's do valuation and fees. And I also want to add address because you need address. All right. So we'll add our filters again. So we're going to say issue date is greater than January 1st. And I'll add another filter. Issue date is less than 3/1. And let's do, I want totals by permit type. So I'll save my report. It shows up under my reports list. I'm going to pull it up. I'll just leave that date range, but you can always change it, and hit run. So here's my report. It's just a list. I've got totals going by the type. So there's a total for the certificate of appropriate. If I scroll down after the commercials, there's a lot of them. We did 71 commercial permits in this quarter. Here's our total fees and our total valuation. So you can quickly build reports on the fly when you want to. You can print them, you can export them. Let's say, oh, I want to edit this. I don't need all this information in there. I want to get rid of the issue date, or I don't want the expiration date, and I don't want the valuation anymore. So I can come back and change my report, save it, and then just run it again. And it's updated. So you can build your own reports on the fly. You can share them with other users. So if I like my report a lot, I can hit share, and I can say, oh, I want to give this to Eileen, and hit save. I'm not going to add it because she'll be confused. Why did I put this report on her homepage? But you can add it there. So you can create a lot with reports. You can create a report that shows everything in a proximity, which is good for public notice. So if you need to send a letter to everyone surrounding a property, you can use the proximity search to do that. You can create reports that are merge templates. So let me log in as somebody else and see if I can find one for you. Let's see if I know this password. All right, this is our Demoville, so we can put whatever we want in here. Let's go to reports and see if we have one. So we have an email template. So permit expiration email notification. So if I look at this, this is a report that's going to find all the permits that expire within a date range and send an email to those applicants saying, hey, your permit's going to expire. You better pull an inspection or you're going to have to pay a fee. I'm going to run preview so I don't send any emails, but we'll hit run. And so this, if I send it, it's going to go to 31 applicants. And then here's just to send to the example of my email notification. And you can make these look however you want. So it's just found everyone who's going to expire. It pulls the data in there so you can put as much information as you want in here to send them a notification. You can also do letters. So there's batch emails. There's also batch letters. Let's see if there's one.
And those 31 reports that she just created, if you sent them, each one of those individual reports would go back to that specific permit number. So it's, even though you're running that in batch, each one of those will appear. If you're looking at that permit B170036, that email will be in there.
That's exactly right. So I don't have one set up to show you, but it's essentially just like the email if you wanted to print letters and send them out. So we do this a lot for renewal notices. We batch email renewal notices. Some people want to print them. You can still do that. A lot of cities will use it for, you know, oh, it's hurricane season and there's a storm. You need to shut down and close your construction sites by 3 o'clock on Tuesday, you know. So if you have like mass emergency things that you want to send out to your contractor so they're all aware of something, you can do that. If you have just information you want to send to all your contractors, you can just set up an email batch and send those out as well. All right. There's one other thing that's not exactly a report, but it's kind of like a report. And I looked at it briefly for when we logged into the Somerville. And those are the metrics. So these are metrics, and they show up on your homepage. And each user can have their own set of metrics. There's standard metrics that come with the system, and there are other custom ones that you can build. So the metrics are interesting because when people first start using it, they're not really sure what to put in there. So they might have one or two, but once they start using them, they find that they're super useful. I have some customers that you log in and all they have are like 30 metrics because they just want to see everything. So here's an example of pending permit reviews. There's 535 pending. This is Demoville, so we never finish anything. That's why our performance is so bad. But what this does is if someone's job is to kind of, let's just make sure our permits are getting moved along in the review process, you can add this metric so that you can see, well, where are we losing it? Well, engineering's got a lot and fire's got a lot. Let's look at buildings. So if you click this, then it'll show you a list of those permits that make up that 30. Some of these weird descriptions with no spaces kind of cause some weird wrapping. But it lets you kind of see that at a glance, and then you can drill down on it and maybe send an email to whoever's doing the engineering review saying, hey, can you hurry up on this one? So there's lots of things that you can do with your metrics. You can also, I think we have an inspection one. Here's the inspections completed this year. So if I want to see, well, let's look at everything we've done this year, I can pull it up and take a look at that full list. I can look at it by user. You can control everything about these. So this example, it's sorted by the inspection status, pass or fail. You could do it by inspector if you wanted to. So you can really put a lot of different options into these metrics. So it gives you kind of the glance at a high view, where are we at, and then help you manage your data. Let's go into Gainesville, because I think they have some cool ones. So let me just switch out here. Okay. So they have overdue permit inspections. So this shows us inspections that have been scheduled and didn't get done in time. So that kind of shows if they've had anything that fell through the cracks. They also have, they use this for their unassigned inspections. So they're kind of interesting the way they assign their inspections. If a specific project comes in that they want a specific inspector to do all the inspections, they can assign that inspector to the project. And then what they do is they have the system automatically assign the inspections to whoever did the last inspection, so that you can try to keep the same inspector on the job for the duration of that project. So then all they have to really assign are those new ones. So this will say, okay, there's 3 unassigned inspections. So the chiefs can come in and they look at this and they go, all right, let me go give this one to Bob. And they pull it up. And I think Bud is in here. Let's see. Cliff. Bud and Cliff are the inspectors, I always remember. So they can assign it to that inspector, and that'll put it right on his list. So they've used them to help them with the assignment process. They also have a method to verify contractor registrations. So there are 3 contractors that need to be verified. So let me pull this up. Here's our 3 contractors. Let's take a look at Acme. So I mentioned they set up their contractor registration a little bit different than Stanford did. So what they did is they still have specific types. So the contractors come in and they say, oh, I'm a mechanical contractor. And they check that, and then they plug in the license and the date. And then they come in and verify. They go look it up on the state website to make sure that it's a valid license number and that the information they gave was accurate. So they use this as a tool to come in and say, oh, I forgot to verify this one. So they can plug in that it's been verified, and then it pulls it off of their list. So there's lots of cool things that you can do with the metrics. I think what other information they have on here. Unassigned, overdue inspections this week. I think this helps their contractors. Oh, this is kind of a cool one. Let's go schedule some inspections. I'm just going to schedule an inspection. I'm kind of going a little quick here just to get some inspections scheduled for this week. Again, they haven't gone live yet. Oh, here's kind of interesting. They have lots of conditions for scheduling inspections. So when they try to schedule an inspection, it does lots of checks, and then it gives you messages. So it's given me 2 messages. It's saying that I'm scheduling the wrong type. So this is a building permit, and I'm trying to schedule, or it's an electrical permit, and I'm trying to schedule a non-electrical permit, and the permit hasn't been issued. Internally, they can say, yes, I still want to schedule it. On the portal, it just won't let them schedule those. So let me just schedule this one. I just want to get a few in here so that I can see these. And let's schedule another one. Building department, we'll do the foundation. And here, there's lots of conditions. One of your licenses expired. permit hasn't been issued, there's money owed, you're not picking the right type, you haven't given us a notice of commencement. So they have lots of different checks to make sure that the contractors are not scheduling or requesting inspections they shouldn't be requesting. Let's just say it's a slab. There's my warning, and we'll give it to Bud, and we'll make it today. All right, so let me come back here and see if we get some more information. So I don't have much data in here, there's only 2, but what happens in Gainesville is they have outside contractors that they can use to do inspections. So they'll pull this list up, and it breaks it down by day and says how many do they have for every day of the week, and they can look at this list, and if they've got more than they know that their guys can do, they can call in their contractors and say, hey, can you guys come in and do some inspections on Tuesday? So it helps them manage that workload to make sure they don't have to roll over too many inspections. And they also track rolled over inspections, because sometimes it happens where the inspector just could not get to all of his inspections, and so he'll move them over to another day. And then they have a report called Rollover Inspections, Inspection Rollover Report, that they can run, and it'll just show, okay, which projects have we been rolling over and who's rolled them over, so that you can kind of keep track of, you know, we've got a lot going on, this person's got too much work, we need to get additional inspectors. So that's an overview of how you can use the metrics as reports.
And any of the reports that we do, you can also have us put them on the portal, either so people can run them before, your citizens can run them before they're authenticated, or once they're authenticated, we can do different sets of reports. So, you know, any kind of self-service things that you want to be able to put out in the forms of reports can very easily be added to your portal.
We have a question.
All right.
You talked about contract inspectors. There's also a requirement in Florida that the contractor can hire a private provider inspector, which is not something that we have any control over as far as whether they can or they cannot. It's not like a contract inspector. Is this process out for private providers?
So I think what we would do is, on the inspection side of things, when they requested an inspection, we would ask them, has the inspection been completed by an outside contractor? And if they say yes, then we can ask them to attach, you know, the inspection report or whatever information they need to provide to you. And so it's kind of going the same way. I haven't done that before, but I think we could make it work that way for sure.
Is that inspection in lieu of your inspection, or is it their own in addition to?
Be in lieu of.
Yeah. So what we could do, let's just add one really quick. Let me get out of here and go in as somebody else. So when I'm on the portal, let's just go log into Gainesville's portal. Okay. So let me go view up my applications, and let me go get a permit. So I'm going to request an inspection. This is where they come in to request an inspection. And they say, all right, I want a pilings inspection. You can add notes here. So if you have specific instructions based on that inspection type, you could put it here. And then we ask the date and time. And then these are custom fields you can add to the inspection request. So in Gainesville, they want to make sure they get the contact name and the contact phone number. What I think we could do here is just have a checkbox, inspection performed by outside source, or whatever terminology you want to use. And if they check it, do you have them like give you evidence of that, like an inspection report or something?
Yeah, we want them to enter it into our system.
Okay. Let me just go at it so we can take a look at it. So I'm just going to set one up here really quick. I'm going through the admin side of things just so we can kind of add a field to that. So I'm going to add it to our pilings. So these are custom tables. Right now, this is the whole admin side of things. This is how we do your configuration. You can go in and do this. We can do it for you. I'm going to just add a field here. And I'll make it a checkbox. And I'm going to add that field there. And then I'm going to add another field. And I'm going to make a variable on, I'm kind of jumping through this quick. We can spend more time if you guys are interested in kind of this configuration option. We can spend more detailed time on it. Let me just real quick. So again, I just added a checkbox here so they can check it and then attach that report. So that's how you could track that information.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Are you going to show an example of the trip route?
So basically it's a report. You'll pull it up. And this is all customizable, so I have it set up where you select an inspector to look at their inspection list. It could just default to show my own inspection, so you could skip the selection step and have it just run automatically. But I'll leave Sean in there and run the report. And so it pulls up all of his inspections today, ordered in geographic order. And then if I click the driving directions link, that's going to open it up in Google Maps. And it knows I'm in Arizona, which is why it's showing me this whole huge area. If they were running it and it knew they were in Florida, it wouldn't be zoomed so far out. And instead of putting in my location, I'm just going to put in this same address, 2946 Gipper. But they would want to typically put in their own address, or it'll know where they're at. So once you put in that address, it gives you your trip routing. So here's our starting point. And then each of the big dots are another permit in the list. And we'll come up here to Morrow Court and end it up on South Summerlin Avenue. So that's an example of the trip routing report that we briefly talked about in the morning session. Make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. And that's what I've got for this morning. This afternoon, I've got all the permits from begin to end and all of that good stuff. So that's what I have for our morning call. If there's anything else you guys have questions on or you want to focus on or take a look at, we can certainly do that.